Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Monday, September 9th. Today is day 339 since the Hamas attacks on the south of Israel on October 7th. A gunman yesterday killed 3 Israelis at a sensitive border crossing between the West Bank and Jordan, according to the Israeli military. Israel has not identified the assailant, but Jordan's Interior Ministry said that an initial investigation identified the gunman as a Jordanian citizen who acted alone. It's an unprecedented attack at the Jordanian border. The Foreign Ministry from Jordan condemned the shooting at the Allenby crossing, which is between Israel and Jordan along the West Bank border, the occupied West Bank, in which a Jordanian man opened fire. 3 Israeli employees at the crossing were killed. The Jordanian Foreign Ministry stressed its firm stance, rejecting and condemning violence and harm to civilians for any reason. The statement highlighted Jordan's efforts to secure a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, curbing escalating West Bank violence, and to lead a genuine political effort toward peace. Today, the Washington Post published an article about how Israeli snipers again face scrutiny after the death of a civilian. Speaking of the killing of the U.S. Turkish citizen, the 26-year-old activist Asenur Egi, the recent University of Washington graduate and activist who was shot at a protest outside of Nablus over the weekend when she was volunteering for International Solidarity Movement, a pro-Palestinian activist group. The article cites another incident last week where the Israeli Defense Forces put out a similar statement in response to the killing of a 16-year-old teenager, Lujain Mousle, in the West Bank in Jenin, where her father said the 16-year-old was shot while she was looking out of the window. All of this sounds reminiscent of the 2022 killing of the American journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. The Washington Post reported that subsequent investigations of Abu Akleh's death, Shireen was an American journalist, and the Washington Post said that this is very reminiscent of subsequent investigations of Abu Akleh's death, including forensic open source analysis by the Washington Post ballistics examinations by the U.S. government that concluded that she was killed by Israeli gunfire. CMEP is putting out a statement today condemning the killing of Asenur. This tragic loss only adds to the growing list of Americans, peace activists whose lives have been taken by the Israeli Defense Forces, such as Shireen Abu Akleh, Tawfiq Abdel Jabbar, Mohammed Khodor. In each case, there has been little to no meaningful accountability from Israel, and the systemic lack of justice only further perpetuates violence. We're deeply disappointed in the U.S. government's ongoing failure to adequately protect its citizens from such unjust killings. While condolences and statements are important, they are not enough. So we're calling on the Biden administration to take immediate action and demand full accountability from the Israeli government. The U.S. must ensure that the independent investigation into Asenur's killing, so we cannot rely on internal Israeli investigations to bring about justice for this unlawful and senseless act. Additionally, the U.S. administration must immediately halt the transfer of weapons to Israel in light of the credible reports that U.S.-sourced weapons have been used in contravention to U.S. and international law. The Palestinian Authority held a funeral procession for Asenur, who witnesses say was shot and killed by Israeli forces. Also in the West Bank, the IDF said it's investigating a possible attempted car ramming after soldiers shot a Palestinian vehicle south of Mount Hebron, leaving a number of people wounded. In Gaza, the Israeli Defense Forces called on residents in the northwest of the enclave to evacuate their homes following rocket fire from the area into Israel, warning them that, quote, terrorist organizations are returning, carrying out rocket fire and terrorist activities directed at Israel, and thus the area is a dangerous combat zone. The Israeli military said on Saturday that it launched a precision strike on 2 schools that were turned into shelters in North Gaza, and that Hamas was using them as military bases. Gaza and rescue services said that at least 4 people were killed in the first strike, and the second strike on a different school in Gaza City resulted in at least 3 people killed and 20 people injured. OSHA, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, highlighted their latest humanitarian update from September 9th. The successful completion of the first round of the polio vaccination campaign. They said that they're starting the second phase that commenced in the South, where the vaccination teams aim to reach 340,000 children in 4 days. Medical evacuations of critically ill and injured patients out of Gaza remain generally suspended with the closure of Rafah. On May 7th, there are an estimated 12,000 patients that are waiting to leave the Strip to receive urgently needed medical care. Daily meals provided to families in need dropped by 35% across the Gaza Strip from July to August due to Israeli-issued evacuation orders in August. Haaretz reported the most recent death toll numbers at 40,988 Palestinians killed at minimum, and a minimum of 94,825 wounded in Gaza, according to the health ministry there. In terms of a hostage ceasefire deal, President Biden is expected to convene the national security team today to discuss ceasefire talks after U.S. officials told Qatari and Egyptian officials the past few days that Hamas's new demands concerning hostage prisoner exchanges go beyond previous agreements. And in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that ministers must not enter the Temple Mount al-Aqsa compound without his approval, asserting that no changes are being made to the status quo of the site. This comes after several visits by Israel's far-right national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, who claimed that he had lifted the ban on Jewish prayers at the site. Of course, other Israeli rabbis have condemned his actions. Hostilities have continued in northern Israel between IDF and Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. An Israeli strike killed 3 Lebanese paramedics and wounded 2 others in Faroun, Lebanese health ministry said on Saturday. And the Israeli military said it had struck and eliminated, quote, terrorists from the Amal terrorist organization that operated within a Hezbollah military structure, end quote. Lebanese Prime Minister Makati announced an emergency meeting today to discuss the ongoing hostilities, and officials from the IDF Northern Command told Haaretz that they have detected Hezbollah's preparations for a prolonged fight with Israel in the event of a collapse of negotiations over a ceasefire hostage deal with Hamas. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Turk, asked countries to act on what he called Israel's blatant disregard for international law in the West Bank and Gaza. And in Syria, the state media reported that Israel conducted strikes near Hama in the northwestern Syrian overnight into today. Monday, 2 regional intelligence sources told Reuters that a major military research center for chemical weapons production, believed to house a team of Iranian military experts, had been hit several times. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that 18 people, 4 civilians, 8 military personnel, and 6 unidentified individuals were killed in the strike. Houthi rebels claimed yesterday they shot down a U.S.-made drone that was flying over their country. The U.S. launched airstrikes over Houthi-controlled territories afterwards. The U.S. military said it was aware of the claim, but had received no reports of a U.S. military drone being downed over Yemen. Looking towards tomorrow's presidential debate in the United States, Washington Post published an article about how in Gaza war, Trump allies see an opening to lure away Arab Muslim voters. Most Arab and Muslim voters are skeptical about Donald Trump, but they're enraged by what it sees as the Biden-Harris's team failure to rein in Israel's brutal war on Gaza. That's an update this Monday on September 9th. May God go before us. Might peace and justice and an end to hostilities come quickly. In the name of Christ, amen.